Welcome to this week's video from Delhi Sustainable Farms. This week we're going to be featuring a recipe of beef stew or vegetable beef soup, and we are going to feature a shoulder roast. So we have a 3.5-pound shoulder roast, as well as some homemade beef broth, which we made using soup bones. So if you are curious about how to make beef broth from our beef soup bone, look for another video that we already posted about how to do that. Today we're going to use that as an ingredient though in our soup. So for our vegetable beef soup that we're going to make today, we're going to make it in the crock pot. We've already cut up our roast and it's in the crock pot, so we'll show you that in a second and what our roast looks like whole and then all cut up. But it's in there ready to go. The next thing we're going to do is chop up some vegetables and an onion. So we have an onion, carrots, and celery. We're also going to be using some frozen vegetables today. I find putting them in the crock pot still frozen makes them less mushy in the soup at the end. Make sure that your beef gets done but your vegetables aren't mushy. So we're going to use some frozen corn, frozen green beans, and frozen peas along with our fresh carrots, celery, and onions. We'll add some garlic, some basil, and some salt and pepper, along with our homemade beef broth, and we'll have some vegetable beef soup. This will probably take about 6 to 8 hours on low in the crock pot to be done. And we'll kind of show you the steps along the way and have a nice warm meal at the end of today.
So here I am cutting up the roast. I first made about 1-inch cuts against the grain on the roast. So you have to kind of figure out which direction the fibers of the muscle are running and cut against them to make your meat a little more tender. After that, then you can see I have them stacked up and made a few cuts down the middle, making it into about 1/3, and then cutting those strips then into about 1-inch cubes. To make your own stew meat, this is basically the process. That roast is still partially frozen, which makes it a little bit easier to cut as well.
So we're going to add some seasoning to our beef. So I already added some steak and burger seasoning, which is mostly salt and pepper. I'm going to add a little basil. And then I'm also going to go ahead and add some minced garlic. I've already peeled these carrots and cut the ends off of them, so now I'm just going to cut them into small rounds to use in the soup. You could also use frozen carrots if you prefer. Alright, and next we're going to cut up some celery. We've already washed it, cut the ends off. Now I'm just going to cut it into small pieces. Now we'll cut up an onion. I'm not a huge fan of onion, so I will cut it up pretty small today. That way it will cook. Gives nice flavor, but I'm not always a fan of eating it. Alright, so now that all of our vegetables are cut up and our meat has been seasoned, we're just going to add everything to the crock pot. So I added some corn. I'm going to break these peas up a little so they fit better. You can use whichever vegetables you prefer. Some people will also put potatoes in their vegetable soup. We're not going to today, but you can. Another variety or alternative people use is putting tomato paste or stewed tomatoes in their soup. I'm going to try to break some of these up just a little bit so that they fit better. Because right now I want to be able to get the lid on. I'm going to break up these peas a little. Break up the corn a little. And also, if you prefer, you could buy a frozen mixed vegetable and use that. You can use all fresh vegetables. It's just whatever you prefer and whatever maybe you have on hand. We had some of these frozen vegetables already on hand, so we used what we had and then added to it. Add some onion, some celery, green beans. And last but not least, we're gonna add some carrots. And then we will add broth on top of all of that. Put the lid on. Fits perfect. And we will cook this on low for about 6 hours. You could also cook it on high for 4 hours. I guess if you did this in the morning, you put it on the 6 to 8 hours and then keep warm after that. That way you could go to work all day, come back, and it will be ready for you. We'll see you back in about 6 hours or so and let you take a look at what it looks like now. That's how you make vegetable beef soup from shoulder roast and homemade beef broth from Soup Bones. Thank you for joining us this week for this week's video. If you have any questions or comments, please post those below. If you'd like to stay up to date with our videos and what's going on in the farm, make sure to subscribe and like our channel, and we will see you again next time.